Hello, and welcome to our lesson on crisis management. This segment will continue discussing the role of crisis managers. Structural equivalence. Another aspect of social structure that is relevant during a crisis is people's structural equivalence. Two people in an organization are structurally equivalent if they have exactly the same pattern of contacts. Such people do not play the same role in an organization, and they are not interchangeable with one another. Structural equivalence only considers similarities between people's patterns of interaction and ignores the nature of people within them. People can be structurally equivalent by having the same patterns of connections with different people, but it does not mean that they are playing the same social role. Regular equivalence. Two people are regularly equivalent if they are connected to the same people in the same way. The level of regular equivalence in an organization is important to crisis managers because it is reasonable to assume that communication would be better and the crisis management process more efficiently within highly equivalent groups. The members of such groups would have common neighbors, shorter communication routes, and higher levels of communication. Variety in social relationships is clearly important in generating the creativity needed to resolve a crisis. Therefore, it would seem that crisis managers have a tightrope to walk in balancing the level of regular equivalence and independence they encourage. Centrality. Organizational centrality is the degree to which information flows are centered on one or a few people. Centrality is important to crisis managers as it is closely related to crisis management efficiency. The influence of centrality depended on the nature of the problem an organization faced and more complex. Non-routine problems such as crises demanded less centralized structures to alleviate the potential for information overload. Degree centrality. Degree centrality refers to people's roles as senders or receivers of information within an organization. A person with a relatively high sending role is a prominent source of information to others, is a highly active member of the network, and is a focal point for instruction and leadership. Such people sustain an organization by providing important information, and the organization is highly dependent on them. This places them in a powerful position, particularly during a crisis when people's appetite for information naturally increases. In contrast, people with a relatively high receiving role are prominent sinks of information and are likely to play an important information storage or synthesizing role within an organization. They are especially important during a crisis because of the great volume and variety of information that is generated and that needs to be synthesized, converted, or condensed into a manageable, meaningful, and consistent format. Between centrality. Between centrality measures the extent to which a person lies between others in an organization and reflects the degree to which they play an information gatekeeping role. People with high centrality are important because they have the capacity to manipulate or filter information flowing between people. In this sense, they have a great deal of power, acting as the valves within a network and occupying a critical position in maintaining free and open communication. During crisis, these people act as the glue that holds an organization's parts together, as weaknesses at these critical points can lead to disintegration. Closeness centrality. People have a high closeness centrality if they are positioned at short distances from every other person in an organization. The closeness of a person to all others is a reflection of his or her independence, since high closeness makes it difficult to act alone, without others knowing. Conversely, people with a high closeness centrality have the capacity to directly monitor and control others and to communicate their ideas more rapidly to a wide audience with minimal distortion. During the pressures of a crisis, they represent a very important channel of communication for a manager. This is the end of this segment of our lesson. In the next segment, we will discuss crisis behavior. This course is presented to you by South Europe College. Thank you for listening and see you on our next segment.